Hello and welcome to the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson. The Local Leaders Podcast provides a platform for successful business owners to share their stories, their experiences, their advice, and their ideas in order to help our listeners achieve more success in their business and in their lives. Get ready, another great show is coming up. Hey, good morning and welcome to another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Johnson, and I am super stoked today to be able to bring to you a fellow North Carolinian down in Wilmington, North Carolina. We've got Matt Piccinin. Did I get it right, Matt?
Piccinin, but yeah, it's close
oh,
enough.
Man, I meant to ask you that before we started.
Close enough.
So we got Matt with us today. He's a co-founder of Shuckin Shack. And these guys are awesome. I've actually been there before. It's been a few years back, and didn't know Matt at the time. He was probably in the kitchen or filling some kind of void there because he's known as the utility infielder and co-founder of Shuckin Shack. Matt does it all, and we're happy to have you, Matt. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, we are, like I said, I'm stoked to have you on because your experience and what you guys have been able to do with Shuckin Shack is awesome, and I think an inspiration for our listeners to kind of learn more about what you've done and understand it better and hear your story. So, with that said, I'd love to just hand it off to you and let you tell us a little bit about Shuckin Shack and what you guys are up to.
Yeah, so Shuckin Shack started in 2007. Me and my business partner, Sean Cook. He owns a little rental shop, beach rental shop down on the corner in Carolina Beach. And he had his eye on this little, 900 square feet, 950 square foot building that was a little arcade. And we had known each other just from hanging out in the bars in Carolina Beach. Back then you had about 5 or 6 places to hang out. So it's grown immensely over the years, but you ran into the same people, especially if you lived there in the winter, because there wasn't much going on.
Yeah.
You kind of had the same little group that you hung out with. So we became buddies, and in one day he called me up. There was the lease sign went in the building we're in now. So 14 years ago, the lease sign went up, and he called and said, "Hey, you want to open an oyster bar?" We were in Carolina Beach. There's good seafood restaurants there, but nothing kind of like, we just wanted that dive bar, oyster bar kind of feel. Nothing too, white tablecloth, anything. It was just one of those, come in barefoot, put your surfboard at the front door, ride your bike, do what you want, and we'll take care of you. And honestly, it started out as, I was 26, he was 28. It started out as, let's just have some fun with a bar in a beach town.
Yeah.
We both borrowed a little bit of money off our parents, got some credit cards, and what we thought was going to sign the lease in May. And what we thought we were going to open Labor Day weekend turned into Thanksgiving, because we had absolutely no idea what we're doing other than we were building a bar, having fun. We would have buddies in there. Beers would be drank just to come up with designs. Like, we didn't have plans. We would just sit there and say, okay, what are we going to do with this wall? And have a few beers. Next thing you know, we've got something. So we opened the Friday of Thanksgiving in 2007. And in Carolina Beach at that point, like I said, the wintertime, there wasn't much going on. So we only did dinners. We opened at 5. I think it was like 5 to midnight or 5 to 11, something like that. It could have even been 5 to just whenever we closed, people stopped showing up.
Yeah, whenever you decided you had enough, right?
That's it. I mean, basically, you could at that point, you could walk out on the street at 9:30 in January and go, "There's nobody else coming by tonight."
Yeah.
So we did that through about March, and then decided it was time to kind of hit it hard. We got our feet underneath of us and back this up a little bit. Neither one of us had any real true restaurant experience. I had been a bar back for 2 weeks at a local place, and Sean did a very limited amount of managing a restaurant when he was in college. So again, like I said, it wasn't meant to go really anywhere where it is now. It was kind of one of those things, let's have some fun with it. So we opened in March for lunches, and as that summer kind of got going, we kind of got busier and busier and busier, and it just it flowed for the next 2 to 3 years, and we figured, hey, we've got something here. It's kind of cool. People like it. It's a dive bar. It's mainly seafood. We got one fryer, one steamer. Our kitchen's 140 square feet. So
wow.
It was basically like, let's give it a shot and we'll look for another location. So we started looking up towards Surf City, got into some lease negotiations. Nothing ever came about it. So we turned our heads back towards downtown Wilmington, figured, hey, about 25 minutes apart, totally different markets. We can make something work. So we found a 1,800 square foot location up, first floor was the service area, bar, kitchen was upstairs. We had to put a dumbwaiter in. It turned out to be a logistical nightmare, but we made it work. So we opened that Thanksgiving of 2012. This time, actually, our timeline was better. We signed the lease in September. We were actually open in November. So the time we had gotten a few things squared away over the years of how to actually make this thing work at a quicker pace. And then so we started open in 2012. Again, it kept snowballing. We found our second location downtown Wilmington, and like I said, it was 1,800 square feet. We had a dumbwaiter. Had to, food had to go up and down the elevator. That was just a logistical nightmare, but we made it work. And so we were busy in 13 and 14. It got busier and busier again. So now we're like, okay, now we've got something that clearly we've got market proof in 2 areas. What are we going to do now? We started to look in Southport. And if you know the Carolina coast, Carolina Beach, Southport, as the crow flies, is about 3 miles. Logistically, it's not that easy to get there. There's a 30-minute ferry ride. You got to wait for the ferry. You got to get off the ferry, or you got to drive an hour up and around Wilmington. So we had a buddy of ours who's an equipment salesman down here, knew a franchise developer, and said, why don't, before you guys pull the trigger on that, why don't you talk to this guy and see if there's something there? So we had a 4-hour meeting and decided franchising was the way to go. Instead of trying to spread ourselves super thin running 3 stores, we said, hey, we had some phone calls about franchising before, but nothing was ever in place. So we weren't there. It wasn't like we could just say, okay, we'll sell something and we'll just go from there. So we had that meeting, decided in 2014 we were going to franchise. So kind of spent most of 2014, the end of 2014, getting some of the pieces in place. Brought on a CEO in 2015, sold some stores, and then opened our first franchise location in April of 2015. And we opened 4 more stores that year, or 3 more stores that year. So total 4 stores in 2015. One in Somerville, South Carolina, Surf City, North Carolina, Frederick, Maryland, and Greenville, South Carolina. And we opened the Frederick and Greenville store back-to-back weeks, the week before Christmas. So that made it for an interesting, it was an interesting 2 weeks. So, I had 2 little ones at the house. My wife wasn't that ecstatic that I was gone right before Christmas, but at that point we had to get some stores open and get some money flowing back into the royalty side of things. So and again, so then 2015 we kind of backed the wagons off a little bit because we knew our systems weren't totally in place. Our operations manual was basically been in my head for the first 7 years of being open. Do we have recipe cards? Not really. We had some stuff written on paper because, again, we were a little dive bar having fun. So if we changed the recipe up just a little bit, nobody knew. Once we started franchising, so we took all of 2016, sorry, after we'd opened those stores, and we didn't sell any stores. We just we developed a few more that we had in the pipeline, but we took everything that we had out there in pieces and brought it into what is now a 350-page operations manual. So we realized that we weren't, even though we had the stores open and running, we realized there were some things we had to tighten up on our end. And that's kind of where that leads us to now. And now we've got 16 locations, 2 are our corporate stores in Wilmington, Carolina Beach. And then we've got 14 franchise locations from Frederick, Maryland to Ocala, Florida, and then west to Cumming, Georgia. And we're actually in the process of developing 5 more stores at this time, 1 in the Chicago area and then in the St. Louis market also. So starting to spread out west a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a heck of a story, my friend. I love it. It's especially the way it starts. Just a bunch of boys trying to have a little fun in your early to mid 20s. You want to drink some beer and have a place to go hang out. Look, you created a business, man.
Well, that's the crazy part about it. You know, like I said, we would have build your own bar stool night. Bring a case of beer because it's raining outside and nobody knew what to do. So bring a case of beer. We'll build some bar stools. You know, we kind of took some elements of bars that we had hung out in over the years and said, okay, we want these few pieces. And it's like it's very unconventional the way we did it, but it's very much us and the way we do things. You know, did we have a plan in place? No, but you know, we knew what we wanted. So it was one of those kind of things.
Well, it's an amazing story and actually a really cool one to tell. And you know, I can feel the vibe of that first location. You know, as you were talking about that story, and really you didn't waste a whole lot of time before you guys, you know, decided or made that franchise decision. And I'm curious, if you don't mind my asking, how and why did you decide franchising was the right way to go as opposed to company owned?
It's because we could sell the idea, which we knew we had the idea when we had the concept in place. And let me back up on that. It's a seafood restaurant dive bar. It's nothing. It's no white tablecloth. It's made to look like an old shack. It's made to have the personality of the owner. You know, we've got our franchise model isn't like, you know, an Applebee's. Here's an acre and a half plot of land. Here's your building, build it. Now here's your restaurant. And they all look the same. None of our stores look the same. So what we decided when we decided to franchise, go to the corporate way, it was me and Sean at the time. So it's like, do we hire 3 managers and then do we manage them? And because it's still our money. So as a manager, it's not really one of those things where, you know, it's not really their own. You can make it, they can call it their own if they want, but it's really not their own. So in the franchising side of things, you're managing somebody managing a restaurant, but it's their investment. So it's in their eyes, they've got to make it work, or else, you know, they're going to be out $500,000 in a build out and everything that they've put into it. And, you know, and so it's almost putting the onus on somebody else to run the store. You can give them all the tools and say, here it is. Here's marketing. Here's the you know, the apparel that you can sell. Here's all this stuff. Here's all the recipes. Here's all the menu build files. Here's all the drinks. Here's the menu. Here's everything. Now just go run it, but you're responsible for it. Because we take, you know, we get a franchise fee, but all that goes right back to opening the stores. We don't make money really until the royalties start coming in. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we push them to open and run a good business, which obviously is everybody's goal in life when you open a business, but it's on them now to make sure it runs. So it's not just, you know, when you have general managers, and anybody in the restaurant industry knows, somebody comes in, they don't like it, they go hop down the street and go find another job. Yeah. And so until they have some skin in the game, it's really, that's the franchise model where it gives us a little bit more, you know, comfort saying, okay, you know, these people are going to be out their investment if they don't try to run the store properly.
Right. So, yeah. And that, you know, that makes total sense. And, you know, one of the things I haven't asked anyone is, you know, before, and just curious if you know the answer, but is there more money to be made via franchising or through your own company stores? And not, I don't want you to divulge anything, but just.
It could go either way.
Okay.
It could go either way. Because if you're able to develop 3 or 4 cash cows, and then, you know, you're always going to have some restaurants that struggle, and you're always going to have some restaurants, you know, we've got our top 8 and then we've got our bottom 8. And so is it just, do you open one of the bottom 8 or do you open the top 8? So it's one of those kind of things. And it's, I think, and I don't want to say there's less of a headache because, you know, we sit up in this office and we spend a lot of time in the restaurant, but when we have our team meetings, I mean, we look at the numbers of each store and say, how are we going to help these lower performers catch these top performers? Right. I think it depends. And then honestly, your labor, if you're running your own restaurants, is obviously more than if, you know, you're not having to staff all these restaurants. So you take some of the headache out of it. It's probably 50. I mean, it's probably a toss up. It just really kind of depends on what your model is and your food costs and your labor costs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, are you guys watching? Is that one of the? And usually I ask this later, but what are a couple of the key metrics that you're watching? I'm sure Prime is right there at the top, but do you even watch it for your franchisees as well?
Yeah, I mean, our KPIs that we look at is basically our signature drinks, our food to liquor. There's more money to be made in liquor than there is food, but we're 70-30 split on food to liquor. We look at everybody's food costs. We have theoretical food costs. We look at inventories for people. We have inventory systems set up. We look at labor. There's a store right now that's running high labor, so we're trying to work through how to get their labor down a little bit more.
Yeah.
You're managing more stores, but you're just managing the people and saying, look, this is the way we think it can be done. You put it into action.
Right. Yeah, you're more the think tank now.
Correct.
Yeah. It's a good term for kind of the role that you guys are playing now. And the franchise business is one I'm not super familiar with. I've talked with a lot of folks like yourself who've gone down that path, and so I'm trying to learn. That's why I was asking, and I'm sure some of our listeners are, probably some listening that are right there on that precipice of trying to figure it out. They've got 2 or 3 stores that that are up and running and successful, and they're thinking, okay, what do I do? Do I keep owning these things and having invested time and my own money, or do I go outside for it? So
yeah, it's the one thing I can give you a piece of advice, if all the people out there, if you're thinking about franchising, don't franchise unless you are ready to go and you got all the pieces in place, because playing catch up is a lot harder than having it. Take the time on the front end to have it right.
Yeah.
Before you go and sell, and it can be a tough decision to make at some point, because you're gonna have people lined up at the door that want to buy, and which is gonna bring the money in, but then you're going, okay, I just sold 25 stores, but I don't really know what I'm giving these people, or how to get all this information to them. And those are some of the hard lessons that we have learned over time. And that's what I tell everybody that we speak to about, if they're interested in franchising or not. I mean, you got to have all those pieces in place before you do anything, because you can get in a lot of trouble if you don't have the pieces in place.
And I know it's a ton of work. I know that I've talked to several people who've had to create those operations manuals, and I think 350 pages sounds about average. When it comes to these things, and they're dogs, they're demons to try to create it. And
it's crazy. You got to go down to how thick to cut a lemon wedge for the bar, or a lime wedge for the bar. And that's kind of you got to get so detailed. It's crazy. Like when Jonathan, our CEO, and he first, this joke or kind of a little story tells everybody when we were trying to put our operation deal together, he's like, me and him basically sat in a room and he said, tell me what you do. I said, I go in, I open the door, or it's like I go into work and I start doing it. He's like, what do you do when you get there? It's like, well, I unlock the door. And that's step 1, unlock door. And then he's like, well, then what do you do? I go in the kitchen. He's like, well, do you turn the lights on? I said, I turn the light. All right, I shut the alarm off. The lights on. And you can slowly kind of tease things out, but that's literally what it is. Unlock the door, shut off the alarm, turn the lights on, count the drawers, do that. And it's, count the drawer to 200, make sure you have X amount of petty cash. But, it's one of those things that down the line, as you keep going, you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be 50 pages. And again, now you're like, it's 350 pages.
Yeah.
Because everything.
Yeah. That's crazy. A lot of work. And it's not free. Probably either with building out or setting up that franchise model. So do your research and be prepared, I think, and probably make, if you think it's going to take you 6 months, it might take you 1.5 years.
Yeah. add at least 3 to 6 months onto that at that point. So
that is so crazy. So tell me, let me switch gears. I'll get stuck on this franchising thing all day, but what have been some of the well let's talk about industry challenges. There's 3 big ones, staffing, food costs, food shortage. How are those impacting you guys, and what are you doing?
Post-COVID or pre-COVID?
Let's go post-COVID.
Post-COVID, I mean, staffing it's an issue that I was hoping was going to be gone by now. We have done a good job of getting our store staffed up, and luckily for us on the coast, we're kind of going into our shoulder season, so we could kind of lay a few people off if we needed to. We may have an extra couple of people, but in the middle of summer, I mean, we were closing for lunches some days. We would just close randomly on a Monday, and I've always been pre-COVID. It has always been, we close 2 days a year. We close Thanksgiving and we close Christmas. We stay open until 10 on the weekdays and midnight on the weekends. And there was never a close early or a take a day off, because you got to create consistency that people know you're there.
Exactly.
But what COVID has done is it's taken that away, and you can literally close for a day if you want. Just put it on Facebook and say, due to staffing shortages. And we had to do that a couple times, because we would have weekends where we would have everybody on the floor, everybody in the kitchen, just getting absolutely destroyed. And then on Monday, you'd have 2 people that were ready to work. So it was like, you know what, everybody just take a day off. And then we'll come back at it tomorrow on Tuesday, and we'll hit the ground running. So staffing has been an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue. I think maybe not as bad. In different parts of the country are having it worse. And when we were up in St. Louis on a site visit the other day, there's signs in every restaurant everywhere. Everywhere you go, or a lot of people just doing takeout or delivery or something like that, because they just don't have the staff.
You're exactly right.
Food shortages, I mean, that's another one where it's kind of become the norm, and I hate it, but it's again, I was always under the impression, never run out of anything, order heavy, or do what you can do to go find it if you had to find a substitute. But again, I mean, it's just become the norm. Like if we run out of wings one week for a couple days, nobody comes in and gets upset, because you can't go next door and get wings, or you can't go down the other way and get wings. It's kind of crazy that we had a pandemic and we just stopped making stuff. I mean, right now we're going through a glass bottle shortage with liquors. Stuff that we would have never carried, we're carrying now, because we may not be able to get a cruising rum, so we're going to get this dark rum. And it's stuff we've never carried, but it's the game right now. And like I said, no restaurant is getting away from it. So it's happening everywhere, and food prices are the same. Wings are astronomical. Crab legs are higher than they've ever been, and stuff like that. And it's just been, it's different. It's a different way to run things. So you got to really watch, your food costs, your labor and everything right now, and make sure you got the right people in place.
Do you guys have a, as far as your menu goes and pricing, do you have a set pricing for all franchisees, or is it kind of market dependent, and the franchisees can set pricing however they need?
It's market dependent, really, because we've got a store in Salisbury, North Carolina, which may not be able to, get the prices that our store in Cumming, Georgia is getting, which is a suburb of Atlanta. But through the franchising world is we're actually not legally allowed to set prices. We can give people our suggested pricing on menu items when we've got a program where we can theoretically price out every menu item that we have. So we can say, hey, look, at this price, you're going to run a 34% food cost. Now, if your market can get a little bit more, you may get 30% food cost, or you can go this way. So, or you can get, you can take it down and run a little bit higher margin, but maybe sell more. So we're not legally allowed to set any prices. We can give you our suggested prices, but what we've also done on the menu for us for seafood, the way the world is right now, is we have taken it and gone. My bookkeeper just stepped in for a second. We've taken it and put market price on everything. Also, all of our seafood is now market price. So if crab legs, shrimp, oysters, clams, anything runs higher one week, we can adjust the price, or if it comes down, we can adjust the price to go with that. So we've got chalkboards in each restaurant where it's got the market price on everything.
Yeah, I've seen something like that. We were down in Florida, down toward Destin, about a month ago, and out on the beach having some crab legs, and there were numerous items on the menu at market price. And so, you have to ask, and I think I think the Alaskan king crab legs, I think they were $85 for a pound. I think that, and they had a pound and a halfer, and I think it was 110 or something. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's goofy. I mean, we've actually added some corn and coleslaw to our crab leg plate, so we can charge a little bit more now, and just looks like a fuller plate. So it's the game you play right now.
Yeah, it's always something. So, let me just back up the franchise piece again, and just ask one other question. What's the hardest part about the franchising model? Is it finding the franchisees? Is it vetting or the franchisees? Is it dealing with the franchisees?
I'll watch my words here.
Yeah, please do.
In case somebody watches this. I mean, finding franchisees is tough. We used to do it in-house. So our development side we had in-house. Jonathan did it. We've had a couple salesmen in-house, and you spend a lot of money on SEO marketing, looking for those people and vetting them and getting them here and making sure that they're financially qualified, that they're not just here for a free weekend in Wilmington and all that stuff. And we've gone anywhere from having people, so we hold discovery days once a month, or we try to at least, as long as we have people validated to come here. People, we would talk to them on Thursday night and they're like, oh yeah, I'll be there. And then Friday morning they wouldn't show up. So actually that was when we had it all in-house. What we did, and we were actually going to do this right before COVID hit, so we're actually a year behind on our development schedule, I would say. We signed on with Raintree Development. They're a national franchise developer out of Denver, Colorado. And they were supposed to come March 23rd of 2020 to come and sit down with us and go through everything and start the process. So obviously we put that on hold, and then we pulled the trigger in October for them to come back and get that process started. And so then we kind of went live with them of January 2021, and now they handle all of the SEO marketing. They handle the lead flow. They handle the validation. They do everything right up until discovery day, and then that's when the people come here and we sit down with them and talk to them. So it's a much bigger process than you think. You're going to think that you may have 15 people walk in your store and say, I want a franchise, and it may happen that way, but that doesn't mean they've got the money, or they're financially qualified, or they may not fit your system. They may not fit the personalities of you. Like, part of our big thing is we have what we call an executive interview process, where we'll break off into 3 separate groups of us, everybody in our office, and we'll interview them. And if we just don't feel the personalities fit, even though they're financially qualified, they're business savvy, if the personalities don't fit, it's not going to work, because it's a 10-year relationship. You don't want to go into a relationship and say, hey, I don't really like this person, but I want their money. Yeah. Because it's just not going to work out in the end. And then as far as like dealing with the franchisees, that's tough, because here in the office, I mean, we put a lot of effort into marketing and design stuff and marketing plans. And then you shoot it out to them and they ask for things and you send it out to them. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we don't use that. So it's like, what do you ask for all this stuff. So we take all this time, put it all together, but then you don't want to use it. So it's trying to get them on the program. And with us is we're always trying to bring our COGS down. So we'll send something out, say, hey, we've got these new spices that we've contracted to brand on our own. It's not going to save you a ton of money every time you order it, but over the long run, it may save you $5,000 in a year. Right. And then they just won't order it. And that's all bottom line money, right? Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's like, hey, we've gone out and did this, but now they don't want to do it because they may have to take an extra step of ordering or something. Yeah. So it's things like that where it's like, what are you asking for if you're not going to do it anyways? Right.
Right. It's anytime you're working with people, you're going to run into that kind of thing. You got, different levels of entrepreneur there that are running the franchises. Some are, more to themselves, and others want to take everything that you've got and
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's dealing with people, right? It's
Yep.
complex. It's difficult, and that sometimes it can be frustrating. But then again, you guys are there to support them, and I'm sure you're doing everything that you possibly can to help make them successful, which is what you set out to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point we're here, right?
Yeah, yeah. And if they take it, if they don't, I know it some of that profitability, may be coming your way that they're missing, and it's frustrating. But what do?
That's it.
You're only one man.
That's it. I mean, we've got a small team comparative to, I mean, we've only got, there's 6 of us in this office. So it's not like we have a giant team of people running around. So we try to keep it, tight in here. And we've got one marketing person, we've got an office assistant, we've got a financial controller, an operations COO, CEO, and then me. And that's it. We do lean on our corporate stores for some stuff, but that's really it. So we try to keep it, we try to run a tight ship, and everybody's always doing something. So
yeah, exactly. Well, let me ask you a little bit about leadership. You guys, you're from where you came from, at 24, 25, 26 at that early age. And when you started this business, I'm sure you weren't thinking about leadership. When you got that 950 square foot location, you were just thinking about drinking some beer and being cool and having a good time.
that's it.
So I feel you, but how have you changed now as a leader of this organization? How's that transformation kind of gone, and what have you learned?
In all honesty, I mean, it's going to sound cliche, right? But I don't really think I've changed. And you can ask kind of anybody in this office. I still come. I mean, I'm in bare feet right now. Like, I still come here in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm not trying to dress up. If we go to conferences, I pretty much have flip flops on. I mean, I'm living. I'm working and doing what I want to do, but I didn't change my lifestyle to get to that. But we do. Our dynamic, Jonathan, he's a little more, clean cut, and he tries to bring it up a notch and make up for me. But I mean, my leadership style is more of a doer. I mean, I'll get in the kitchen, I'll work. If somebody says it can't be done, I'm gonna figure out a way to get it done, and I'll show you that it can be done. I'm a worker, and I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I was building houses when we opened the store. I would work 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then I'd go work in the restaurant from 5 to midnight until we decided, hey, we're going to open for lunch. And then I decided I was going to take a small salary. And that's just the way I kind of became the pseudo, in a sense, GM and leader of the business. Me and Sean were both managing, and one, he had his way, I had my way. And we finally sat down and said, look, it's only going to work if one of us, kind of takes the reins and is the face of the business, in a sense. So, I mean, like I said, my leadership hasn't really changed. I mean, I will, like I said, I'm the utility infield. I know everything about the business. I can tell you pretty much anything you need to know. So it's more like, we kind of have a saying around here when we have discovery days, because we don't dress up at discovery days. We actually tell people when they come here, like, don't put a suit and tie on to impress us. Like,
yeah,
some t-shirts, like we've got goodie bags that go out to the office or to their hotel rooms. Like, wear the t-shirt if you want, because literally we're going to be dressed just like that. And Bill, our COO, when he kind of came on, he's like we know the reason we can dress like this is because we know what we're talking about.
Right.
And because you don't have to dress up, you don't have to change the way you want to live your life if you know what you're doing, and you can show people that you know what you're doing.
Well, that's, you said earlier something, and I wrote down or typed in living the brand. Matt lives the brand, and the brand kind of, I mean, you're embodying all that to me, what it's about, the shack, the dive bar, the cool beach vibe kind of thing. I mean, that's what it feels like to me. So
yeah, I mean, like me and my wife dropped the kids off at school this morning. We went home, grabbed the paddle boards, and went and paddleboard ocean for about an hour this morning before we came to work.
Nice.
So but that's kind of what it is. It's like, like you said, it's living the brand. And if you can live the brand as the leader of the brand, then nothing has to be, nothing has to feel fake.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what it is, and we're pretty liberal with, how especially since COVID hit, if you don't want to come to the office today, just get your work done. As long as you get your work done, and you show up to meetings and when you need to be there, do it. But if you want to work from home or you want to go somewhere, and as long as you get your work done, I don't care where you're at. Yeah. It's because I'd rather you enjoy your life. Like, I don't want you to come to work and hate it if you're just going to sit behind a desk all day. Right. I mean, I barely come to this office, in all honesty. Like, I spend more time in the restaurant because that's what we do. We run restaurants. I want to see what's going on. I may want to jump in the kitchen and play with a recipe. I may want to get behind the bar and play with a new drink or something like that. I can't do that up here. So and honestly, we're literally a half block from the ocean. It's not like or not the ocean, from the restaurant. It's not like we're in a high rise in the city, and we're literally, I can walk to the restaurant in 3 minutes. Yeah. So, but that's just where our craft is, in a sense. So why not be in the restaurant? Yeah. Talk to the staff. What's going on? What do you guys need? How can we help you? Yeah. Stuff like that. And like I said, so in a weird roundabout way, like, I don't feel like I've really changed a whole lot.
Well, that's you are who you are, and or as I heard him say one time, I is what I is.
That's about it, right?
Yeah, and that's it. But like I said, I think you are living the brand, and it's really cool. Sounds like a great environment, a great place to work. A great thing to be a part of if you're an entrepreneur out there looking for an opportunity in the restaurant space. Shuckin Shack is an awesome place, and great food, great people, great vibe to it. And please jump on the website, check out the franchise opportunity information, and just get on the scope and make yourself known. We'd love to talk to you. There's my little commercial. I don't know where that came from, but I thought, why not? You never know who we're going to reach with this podcast. So might as well throw it out there. I guess I just looked at the clock and realized that it was moving forward a little bit more briskly than I had anticipated. Just because it's such a great conversation, and so much to talk about when it comes to being successful and running your restaurant. But, what do you think has led to your success, with this business, and maybe can you couple that with maybe some advice for those out there who are looking to take the next step and with their concept?
I think what has led us to where we're at is basically just it's going to go back to living the brand, because we've had some people before Bill as our COO came on. We had hired a training director, and it was kind of like he came in and was like, you guys need to do this, and this. And honestly, it was almost like it steered us back to being more corporate than we wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so honestly, we after we had parted ways with him, we looked back at it and said, and then Bill came in and he's like, you guys have the brand. Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to live this lifestyle. You guys have what everybody wants. And so I think by shifting back over to that side of things, where because you go to conferences and it's like, you got to wear slacks and a shirt, and you got to dress this way, and you got to talk this way, but that's not who we are, and that's not what we want to be. So I think once we kind of came back over back to living the brand and being the brand and being what it is, I think that's what kind of propelled us into the next level. Because we were just at a conference in Vegas. I wore shorts and a long sleeve t-shirt and a hat through the whole thing. People are dressed up. It was a multi-unit franchise conference, so we had a booth. So it's not like, so I said basically just wear what you want, live the brand. Like, that's like, I'm not going to go there in a suit and tie and present to you our restaurant and then never be in a suit and tie again. Right. It doesn't make sense. So when we went back to living the brand, and we have a lifestyle guide that we give people, and it kind of talks about living the brand and being your own person and all this stuff. And this is who we want in our system. I think that's what brought us back to being as successful as we are now, which would lead into, the advice for somebody: don't change your brand for anybody. be what you are, because if people want what you're selling, then there's no reason to change it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the simplest advice is just keep what you're doing, and don't change it for anybody or any reason.
That is awesome advice. And it is, it sounds so simple, but it's so difficult to follow, for so many people today, because there's so many influences, coming in. There's, the expectations of others, the culture, just tons of different things that are impacting you as a business owner. And, it's very refreshing to talk to someone like you who's built this business around that identity and that brand, and you're still living it, and you're sticking true to who you are. And so kudos to you guys for going this far and this long and being this successful and sticking to it, sticking to your guns, for lack of a better word. And again, I want to be respectful of your time. I'd love to sit here and just keep grilling you about all the great things, all the advice and ideas and things that are in your head. But I know you got other things to do. But I want to thank you for taking time to join us today and for sharing, your experience and your wisdom with me and with our listeners. So thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks for having us, and we appreciate kind of getting our story out there. Next time you're in Wilmington, look us up. We'll
dude, I'm going to text you and I'm going to say I'm coming, and and make sure that there's a spot for me and my wife, because my favorite seafood, or two seafoods, are oysters and crab legs.
There you go. We got plenty of them.
Yeah, and you guys are right there. You still have the Shuckin, the little small original location, right?
Oh yeah, that's our
right there in Carolina Beach.
That's a little baby. That's not going anywhere.
Isn't that right by the pier?
No, it's right by the Marriott, the Courtyard by Marriott, right there.
Okay. There was something over there by the pier across the street that I noticed last time I was up there. But yeah, I'm definitely going to check you guys out again and come back and enjoy it. And for all those folks down toward the beach, Wilmington, Carolina Beach, down in that area, Wrightsville, any of those, Shuckin Shack, get over there, check them out. If you haven't had the opportunity to eat with them, please do. Wonderful experience, and awesome food, and in great locations. And of course, now we want to support those franchisees that are spreading out across the country. So look them up, check them out on the website, see where they are. Make sure you get over there and have a meal with Shuckin Shack. Thank you again, Matt, for your time. It's been awesome, brother.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
All right. For all our listeners, thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Local Leaders Podcast. We appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.